this is Martin. We are here at KubeCon in San Diego, and today we have once again with us Bob Quillin. You are VP of Developer Relations at Oracle Cloud. Welcome to the show once again.
Good to be here.
As I say, we should become regular. You should become regular on my show.
That's right. Have a weekly appearance, right?
Perfect. Weekly will be too frequent.
Okay,
Let's do monthly.
There you go.
So the thing is, since we meet often, there's not always enough new stuff to talk about.
Sure.
So, but I'm curious, anything new that happened since we met at Oracle World?
Yeah, well, actually, we have 3 new things we're talking about at KubeCon this week. We're announcing the Oracle API Gateway, which really focuses on integrating a lot of the services that we have, a lot of SaaS technologies, on-premise Kubernetes applications. So it talks about integration, which is a big theme for enterprise customers right now. We can dive into that a little bit. We're announcing the Kafka connector for our streaming service, which is a commitment for open source and trying to extend our streaming service to all the standards out there, Apache Kafka being the biggest one. And then also talking about our logging service. We just launched a new logging service, and that has a really nice connection to FluentD, another logging standard here that's being pushed to CNCF, one of the projects. That's standard way to connect logging information across both the Oracle Cloud services, but also anyone that's running FluentD. So really staying committed to open source and a lot of those ways to help our enterprise customers as they come to the cloud, really embrace cloud in some different ways.
So when we look at Oracle, Cloud, how much these cloud native technologies are being used there? Because Oracle now does a lot of. You have guys have been doing since Sundays, So can you talk about those projects that you're consuming or?
Yeah. So it started really just a few years ago. One of the early KubeCons, we announced our Kubernetes service. So Oracle Container Engine for Kubernetes is our platform. We added in our Docker V2 compliant registry on top of that. Last year we announced Functions, which is based upon an open source project, FN project. Really once again committed to using open source technologies for serverless. And that's been a change in the industry. A lot of the original serverless technologies were more proprietary. So Lambda being a big example. Early adopters going to Lambda, but getting locked in. And lock-in is one thing we're really trying to move away from. People going to a more multi-cloud strategy, all these CNCF technologies. I was actually speaking at a panel, multi-cloud con this morning. And everyone's pushing towards trying to get more standardization, more platform unification, so you have a choice of where you want to run your workloads. And that's where these commitments, these open standards come from. So Kubernetes, FN project, and the things we're announcing now around API Gateway, around Kafka, around logging with our FluentD. So all those sort of come together with one kind of particular focus in mind.
What is still the pain point that customer faces? Whether you talk about multi-cloud or hybrid cloud. In Europe, they're working on Gaia X, where they want to democratize cloud even further.
Sure. Yeah.
So what are some of the pain points which customers face? As you talk about.
Yeah, I think there's a couple really big ones. I talk a lot about and talk to customers about DevOps and culture and people. So the people pain is one of the bigger ones of helping people in larger enterprise teams move and adopt new technologies and new processes. And I think that's one of the biggest things we've seen and focused on, because we have a large customer base, large enterprise base that's slowly migrating their application. I think still 80% of the applications are on-premise still. So it's a long, slow slog getting things over to the cloud. So we've focused a lot on technologies that help build bridges and kind of on-ramps from what they know. We've announced Kubernetes operators and brokers that allow people to bring technologies together. API Gateway is a good example of that, because you could run that with a Kubernetes application. But you can also run our new API Gateway with an on-premise application, connect that into a cloud service by exposing a RESTful API. You connect in your SaaS services. A lot of people are running SaaS on Oracle Cloud, HCM, Human Capital. You've got Marketing Cloud, Eloqua. You've got ERP. You got supply chain, customer experience. We have a huge SaaS business. And so connecting all these together from a business application is really what enterprises are looking to do, but do it from ways they understand. I don't have to build it from scratch, because most of this is not going to be just like either lift a shift and plop it in there, or it's not going to be a greenfield. It's all the messy stuff in between. You can click off move and improve, and incrementally, how do I adopt new cloud native technologies? And that's kind of what we're focusing on, helping them use open source technologies as bridges to what they know.
Right. And one of the new technology, because you mentioned that, is service mesh also.
Oh boy, yes, yeah, yeah. I was also going between multi-CloudCon and Service Mesh Con this morning. And that's we're seeing. There was a question this morning of how many people are looking at Service Mesh and how many people are using it in production. All the hands go down. It kind of reminds me like 3 years ago with Kubernetes, where there were some projects about everyone building their own service meshes. And now we're seeing standards come up and our customers are looking for ways to use Envoy proxies and using Istio. We support all those frameworks on top of our Kubernetes platform. And I've created integrations for all those. And it's still, I think they're still working out a lot of the standardization there. A lot of the operationalization is still coming. But if you're building a microservice architecture and you want to have all the framework and monitoring and management to make it possible, there's a great discussion of how Google's running 1 million sidecars, how they did that. It took them 7 years to get to this level, but in its classic, it's kind of like where Kubernetes came from with Google. So you have the unicorns adopting these technologies, and companies like Oracle Cloud can now begin to provide standard ways for their enterprises to use this based upon things they know. So we're seeing it kind of work its way up the stack and out to the enterprise, not just the unicorns, but people who actually have real projects. And I think Service Mesh will see over the next 2 to 3 years a major ramp up as more and more of these productions become operational and get more enterprise grade, I would say. So.
And by the time Service Mesh matures,
we'll be back for another one.
So do you already see something? The CI/CD pipeline is there, and then I don't know that security. I don't know. What do you see in the?
There's a big push of how do you have CI/CD and application deployment technologies that can traverse multiple cloud providers, that can go across multiple platforms. And I think those are big opportunities to help move CI/CD forward. Edge technologies and what's going on with streaming, I think, is going to push a lot of the cloud native architectures too. So you have Kafka streaming coming in, you have IoT devices, edge devices, smart devices, cars, scooters, everything producing edge streaming at major volumes to be able to process that and actually have the connections to run that at scale. And connected into serverless, connected into Kubernetes, connected into the rest of your applications. I think that's the other big thing that's the scale of what's going to be necessary to support financial services with all their streaming, along with all the smart devices that are coming in from the edge. I think that explosion is going to really push the architectures forward too. And people who have high performance platforms, kind of one thing that Oracle was built for, highly secure, enterprise grade, will be in a good position, I think, to help that happen in this next wave. So we had the first wave of application. Now we're starting to see these major financial services companies, healthcare companies, and then sort of large, transportation companies using all the data services that are coming in. Then that takes you over to AI and ML, what's happening in terms of intelligence, and bringing that to the DevOps world, the dev world, and helping people build better applications based upon those technologies. So, you're seeing that stuff being built on top of Kubernetes. So Kubernetes provides that plumbing for streaming, provides a plumbing for AI ML. So I think it's done a great job at sort of unifying the playing field and leveling that to the point that now the applications can be built and go to the next phase. And we're seeing that kind of happening right now, and probably for the next 3 to 5 years.
I'll go back to the multi-cloud. Now we are also talking edge computing, edge cloud.
Sure.
Because when you look at whether it's Tesla cars, or there are so many sensors there. Amazon stores, where you have no cache in there.
Right.
So how do you look at edge from Oracle's perspective? Because most of them, there is stateful, transaction is happening, data is being collected.
Yeah, and I think we're building a lot of autonomous scale service in the core, but also providing ways to process stuff at the edge. And we're seeing serverless be kind of a very interesting application for pushing compute out to the edge, because it's much lighter weight and you can run those serverless functions out on the edge. And then when you do a lot of the core processing from a artificial intelligence or machine learning perspective, that kind of goes back to the core and having the GPUs and kind of the high power stuff. So high power in the core, a lot of lightweight processing at the edge, but the other trend, probably the next few years we'll see too, is a lot of that processing going to the edge. So we've done a lot of work to get stuff working at the core. There's also a lot of computing moving to the edge. That's where all the intelligence needs to be, where the processing is going to happen. Oracle's a data company.
Is it? Because then I Oracle, you guys are, so many. I mean, of course,
Just as core, we have autonomous database, we have data science, and our customers kind of look at us from the data out. And the hardest thing to do in a cloud native environment is to deal with your data. So in some ways, we're in a great position to kind of get those last major applications. Those are some big business critical applications, get those moved to the cloud, and start taking advantage of all this kind of activity that's happening at the edge, at the intelligence level, and then cloud native kind of working its way in all those areas. And it's where it started with just doing kind of containers and clusters. It's expanded to a lot of different applications now, which is really exciting. Seeing the use cases of how people are using this for surface mesh, for machine learning, for edge and IoT. So it's going to be a fun ride.
Earlier you mentioned that people are one of the biggest challenge when it comes to. So that's why Oracle came out with the autonomous database, autonomous Linux, so that to remove people out of the equation. So can we expect autonomous Kubernetes also?
We're almost.
Because the fact is that Kubernetes is very hard. It's too many knobs.
It is very hard, and I think a managed service is the first major kind of step towards the autonomy there, and building all those best practices in. And I think that we're pretty close to calling it autonomous, but we're reserving that for special projects here. But as a managed service, it really does help people leapfrog that complexity. And we talk about culture, but complexity in all the different stacks that are happening and the changes and the new announcements that come out, every KubeCon. It's hard to keep up with all that. So a managed service has really helped people, basically not have to learn how to run Kubernetes themselves and how to run Kafka themselves and how to build out a service mesh themselves. They can start now using managed services to help you then go not become the expert, be the expert at your application, not the expert at the infrastructure itself. And as a managed service provider, that's kind of what we provide with the level of support, not just managing it, but also providing the security, providing the performance that goes with it. And that's the other area we've been focusing a lot on for the last couple of years, is focusing on compliance, using HIPAA compliance and FedRAMP, and building out data centers in countries where, like Germany and Israel, where the data has to stay in that country. So because our customers have in-country data requirements, so bringing cloud native applications into that world so they could be secure, but they could be in country. Now you're starting to see enterprise requirements mix in with something that you would never really thought of when you're talking about Kubernetes. I just wanted to get it up and running. Now I have to get up and running. The data has got to stay here. It's got to be compliant. It's got to be within my governance and my rules within my particular country that I'm focused on. So, all those things start to, show what, you get to have different flavors of Kubernetes deployments and managed services across the different providers because of that. And it's one thing that Oracle can bring, is the security side, the compliance side, and the in-country work is required for an enterprise app to run in that country. So
this could be a question you can choose not to answer, because you're talking about different countries. Like recently, a lot of trade war is going on. Mm-hmm. So some country may go on the embargo list. Mm-hmm. Like it happened with Venezuela. So now, as those countries are depending on cloud, mm-hmm. which is right. So how because they are your customer as well. So how do you ensure that they have the confidence to use the cloud?
I think we've always found, and from when I was running Stack Engine in the early days to coming early on with container technology at Oracle, many of the early adopters by a wide margin were in Europe and around the world. And there's a single cloud provider that kind of dominates a lot of the North America cloud world. Well, they remain nameless, but you look across the world, those cloud providers they haven't won yet. And I think a lot of the activity and opportunity too is looking at where AWS is not, and where countries who have requirements that are unique to those countries, that are enterprise and governance related, can take advantage of things that Oracle, they've traditionally got from Oracle, and they trust Oracle to provide. And that's kind of where we focus on this enterprise grade cloud, highly secure, high performant. I think that is a core part of our opportunity is not just to focus on winning North America, but also looking at the countries where there's an opportunity to provide something special that helps them meet their needs to adopt cloud. You look around the representation. This is a global conference. It's 13,000 people from all over the world, speaking many different languages, and the presentations I've seen have already been diverse in terms of where they're coming from. So, KubeCon's in China, it's in Barcelona, it's in Amsterdam, it's all over the world now. So, so I think there's a huge opportunity to look at providing solutions for those particular environments in those particular countries. So.
Just to wrap it up, what expectation you have from the cloud native world in 2020?
I think we're going to make really strong progress in areas where we've been hinting at it for the last couple of years. I think service mesh is one area that requires a lot more productization, and I think we saw that happen with Kubernetes, 2-3 years ago. That's going to happen there. I think we'll also start seeing more and more enterprise adoption because the tools are becoming more mature, the training's happening, and I think they're getting more confidence. And these you see a lot of enterprise teams coming to something like KubeCon and bringing 10, 20, 30 people to get trained and learn about this. Many are new to cloud native. In one of my sessions this morning, I'd say 90% this is their first KubeCon. So, which is great. This is what we want to have people come and learn. So I think the future is going to be great as we get training, as we get the people to catch up with the technology, and then filling in the gaps on the enterprise side in terms of security, in terms of integration, in terms of performance. I think all those things will make Kubernetes the de facto platform, and everything on top of start to get more mature. So we see more and more real solutions go from there. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob, so much for once again talking to me.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that we'll be seeing each other soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so.
Thank you.
Thanks.